NFL Week 5 is over. NFL Week 6 is here. What's going on, BLV? It's Mitch back here with another week of my NFL Power Rankings, ranking every NFL team from the worst to the best after reviewing week number 5. This is my NFL Power Rankings video from the worst to the best, from number 32 to number 1. Let me know in the comment section below where I'm right, where I'm wrong. If you think I'm way off on your favorite team, let me know. Gronk spike the like button. Don't forget to subscribe for weekly NFL Power Rankings every single Tuesday and a lot more NFL content. Let's waste no more time. It's time for your Week 6 NFL Power Rankings. Let's begin at number 32, the Carolina Panthers. They stink. They are very bad. And it is very discouraging for a Carolina Panthers team that had the number 1 pick, traded up to get the number 1 pick. They are witnessing the rise of CJ Stroud in Houston, who they could have had. And you're hearing all this buzz and news about Frank Reich and the GM and the staff. Oh, they all wanted CJ Stroud all of a sudden. We never heard that before the draft. Maybe a little bit, but not enough to make me convinced that that was the actual deal. This isn't a 49er Trey Lance scenario where I'm really buying that right now. But apparently their owner stepped in and picked Bryce Young. So apparently their owner didn't watch the bottom line view before the draft, which is always a mistake. But I will say, Carolina, I don't think Bryce Young is in a situation where you can really make a proper evaluation. I'm going to stand up for Bryce Young, a guy that I'm not even that big of a fan of. I wasn't, huge on him coming out of the draft. Like, he wasn't my number 1 guy. I wouldn't have picked him first. You guys know that. But his number 1 receiver is Adam Thielen. The offensive line is bad. The run game isn't any good. The defense is injured. Like, what do you want the kid to do? So for me, I'm going to give Bryce Young time. And he is a smart guy. He does have limitations from a size and physicality standpoint. We knew that. But the thing is, once he grows and once he gets the mental thing down, he might be a very talented guy and a very good guy. Is he going to be CJ Stroud? I don't think so. And I think they made a mistake. Anthony Richardson has a lot of physical talent, but he's getting injured a lot. Now, Bryce Young, you got to worry about his size down the road. But to me, this is just a bad football team. Their defense is injured. Their offense has very little talent supporting their young quarterback, and they've got a rookie quarterback. They would be a better team with Andy Dalton. And honestly, they maybe have to think about just playing Andy Dalton to try and win a game at this point. Because I don't know if Bryce is ever going to bring it to you this year. It might be embarrassing. But this team just feels like there's already kind of some inner turmoil, some behind-the-scenes stuff you don't like to hear about. And that's not good. That is not good for the future of this franchise that doesn't have a first-round pick next year. Bad news. At number 31, the New York Giants, who are also a very injured football team on the offensive line, on defense, everywhere seemingly. Daniel Jones is beat up. Saquon is injured. And they can't block to save their lives. I mean, this is easily the worst offensive line in the NFL. And there are a lot of bad offensive lines in the NFL. I mean, my Patriots stink on the offensive line. The Jets stink on the offensive line. There are some bad offensive lines. The Giants have one of the worst offensive lines I've ever seen in my life. And because of that, they cannot do anything in the pass game. They cannot. And Daniel Jones is not playing as good as the contract suggests he should. The receiving core is not good. Darren Waller had a better week this week. He's a bit washed. Right? They don't have a number 1 receiver. Their defense is competing hard and they're trying, but they're not super talented to the point where they can win them games. This is one of the biggest regression teams I've ever seen in my life as a football fan, truly. At number 30, the Chicago Bears. Justin Fields played probably one of, if not his best game of the season the last couple of weeks. Back-to-back great weeks. Back-to-back, I think, 4 touchdown performances. Now, all the Bears fans are coming out of the woodwork, talking about, Mitch, you're an idiot. Now, they're all giving the laughing emojis on my videos. Great. Yeah, I see you. you played the Broncos and the Commanders, probably the two worst defenses other than your own defense in the NFL. We'll see if the offense can continue on this trajectory. DJ Moore is playing phenomenal. He's a great player. We all knew this. Chicago has a good supporting staff for their young quarterback. This should be taking place. But for whatever reason, the coaching staff was not really playing into what Fields does well early. They weren't throwing the ball deep. They weren't pushing the ball down the field, and they weren't running him, which is what he does well. Everything else he's not very good at. He's not accurate. He's not a pocket guy. He's not going to make a quick decision. You can't make him Tom Brady or Peyton Manning here. This is Justin Fields. Make him the athlete, and he'll be successful. The defense is still really bad, but this team won a game. I give them props for that, and they should have probably beat the Broncos as well. Speaking of the Broncos, I have Denver at number 29. The worst defense in the NFL, by far. I mean, Zach Wilson and the Jets were running the ball, throwing the ball all over the yard, and the only reason they didn't put up like 50 was because of the red zone defense. Other than that, this was bad. And then you have the offense and the special teams turning the football over. The offense isn't that bad with Russell Wilson not playing horrible. He's just not as good as he used to be. The offensive line is not horrible, but it's not great. The receiving core is not horrible, but it's not great. It's just a very, very mid offense coupled with one of the worst defenses we've ever seen in NFL history. At number 28, the New England Patriots at a new low at number 28. There's some people putting them at 32. I think that's mostly for the headlines. I'm not quite there yet, but they're certainly in the discussion. Right now, their offense is probably the worst in the NFL. They can't run the ball. They can't throw the ball. They're not getting good enough quarterback play. Their receiving core is absolutely horrific. They can't separate. Their offensive line is a problem. It's probably one of the 2 to 3 worst. If it weren't for the Giants, this would be the worst offensive line in the NFL. The Bill O'Brien thing has not worked out. The defense is injured and not as good. And Bill Belichick is just getting eviscerated by everyone. And I think he deserves it because he is the one that is responsible for this team. He coaches it. He manages it. He brings the players in. He is the chef, and he's cooking up an absolutely disgusting meal in New England. At number 27, the Arizona Cardinals, a team that is probably not as talented as the Patriots, but they at least play watchable football, right? They did beat the Dallas Cowboys. New England lost to the Dallas Cowboys by 1,000 points. The Arizona Cardinals have Josh Dobbs at quarterback. Somehow their offense works better than the Patriots. Their defense has no Pro Bowl level talent and is competitive. They were competitive with a very talented Bengals team, and maybe they just don't have the talent to go toe-to-toe with some of these teams, but they're trying, and they're being coached really well. And I think, Marquise Brown quietly is having a very good year. James Conner's playing well when he's in there. The offensive line, I think, is deceptively a top 10 unit in football. Dobbs is not making many mistakes, and the defense fights. So give them credit at number 27. At number 26, the Washington Commanders. This team is a disaster from a defensive coaching standpoint. The team with this amount of talent and the defensive front should never be this bad. And Jack Del Rio and Ron Rivera have been dreadful this year. The offense has actually been really nice. And if you would have told me that this offense would be what they're getting from Sam Howell, Terry McLaurin, and company, Eric Bieniemy should be the head coach of this team soon, in my opinion. I really like what he's doing, and I really think Sam Howell's playing pretty well, and Brian Robinson's playing pretty well. This team's defense is just not living up to expectations whatsoever. At number 25, the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings have a very good offense. Now they're going to be without Justin Jefferson. I still think they'll have a good offense. And the defense is just not talented enough. And we've seen that over and over and over again, coupled with a pretty tough schedule. They played the Chiefs, they played the Eagles, they played the Chargers. They've played teams that are simply better than them, period. At number 24, the New York Jets. The Jets have a, I think, talented defense that at times plays to its level of talent. At other times, maybe allows too many yards and too many conversions for my liking. They have a problem in the run game, which I'm not a fan of, and their offense is extremely limited. Zach Wilson is playing better. He's not turning the ball over as much, but they can't really protect for him. Now, Elijah Vera Tucker is injured. That's a problem. And their passing game just doesn't have a lot outside of Garrett Wilson. Their run game is basically, if Breece Hall can hit a home run, that's their offense. That's it. Denver made them look a lot better than they are. At number 23, the Houston Texans, a team that I actually enjoy watching, a competitive defense that's well-schooled, well-schemed, and really is pretty fast and physical. The offense is a CJ Stroud show right now. He just makes so many great high-level throws in the pocket, on the move. He is a pleasure to watch. The receiving core is underrated, and the run game has started to get it going. The offensive line's getting healthier. This is a team on the rise, a franchise that you like to watch. At number 23. At number 22, I've moved the Packers down about 10 spots since last week, finally giving me an evaluation about what I think about this team. I was really high on them, and correctly so, early in the year, and I won a couple bets on them. Lately, I've lost a couple bets on them. And that's just the way it goes with a guy like Jordan Love, who's extremely inconsistent. Has talent, makes some plays with his legs and his arm, but also just at times doesn't see things properly, forces things when it's not there. He's being managed by his head coach. They're not quite getting the ball to Christian Watson enough. Aaron Jones is injured. David Bakhtiari's been injured. They've had injuries, Devondre Campbell. But they do have a lot of talent everywhere on their team. Offensive line, running back, receiver. You see the young playmakers coming to play. And then defensively, Jair Alexander shuts down Devontae Adams. Like, they've got real talent. Rashawn Gary, Preston Smith, Kenny Clark. So they've got talent. It's just kind of that weird mix where they're young, they're immature, their quarterback's not playing as good as he needs to. At number 22. At number 21, the Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders beat the Packers. They probably should have beat them more convincingly on the scoreboard, if not for a couple misses by their kicker. Carlson, one of them got blocked, one of them he missed. And Jimmy Garoppolo, he's just a boneheaded quarterback. I feel like if they had a top 15 quarterback in this league, they would actually be a legitimate threat for the playoffs because their defense is playing way better than I expected. They're playing fundamentally sound. They seem to have the advantage schematically each and every week. Max Crosby is a one-man wrecking crew, and their secondary is playing competitively. Offensively, they've got weapons. Myers and Adams is one of the top receiving cores in the NFL right now. They're starting to get their tight ends involved. Jacobs is starting to get it going in the ground game, but it's just not good enough offensively. McDaniels has got to get more out of this talent group. And the offensive line's got to be more consistent blocking for Garoppolo, but Garoppolo is limiting, I think, the offense. I feel like with a guy there that, could really stress down the field a little bit more, do more physically from a quarterback standpoint, the Raiders would be a bit better. Like, I actually think that game against the Packers convinced me that the Raiders should be better right now. And honestly, I think if even Jimmy was playing against the Chargers, they probably beat the Chargers because O'Connell, while he has a better arm and can threaten down the field, he is, a young, inexperienced player and made some mistakes. So at 21, the Raiders. At number 20, the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're just a really lucky, fortunate team. I don't really know what else to say. They have some really talented studs. I mean, TJ Watt dominates every week. Their pass rush is really strong at times, and their secondary is opportunistic. They are well coached on defense. Their offense is just so hard to watch. Matt Canada is so bad, but Kenny Pickett, he makes some plays. They do get plays out of Jalen Warren and George Pickens and Najee Harris and some of these guys every once in a while. Calvin Austin even. But it's just so inconsistent offensively. They're a very tough watch, but they're gritty. They play hard. They believe in their identity of their defense. That's why they're 3-2 at number 20. At number 19, the Tennessee Titans. Very similar team to Pittsburgh. I think they're just a little bit better on offense. They're cleaner on offense. Tannehill's, I think, better than Pickett. They've got, I think, a little bit more juice in the skill positions. Derrick Henry doesn't quite look like the king right now. Really impressed with the kid at running back, Sharp. D-Hop had his best game of the year last week. They need Treylon Burks back. That would definitely help. But they get enough from like Westbrook Akine and a Okonkwo. They get enough there. It's just not like anything special. The defense is solid, but at times they just have difficulty with vertical passing games. I was shocked to see how poorly the run defense played last week, but that will be fixed. Vrabel's a great coach. They'll be around in the AFC South all year long. At number 18, I've got the Indianapolis Colts, who I have slightly above Tennessee because they beat the Titans, but that's really the only reason. I feel like the Titans are probably the overall better team, especially considering Minshew is in there over Richardson. But it's really, really close, and I feel like probably the Titans will beat the Colts when they play in Tennessee. But like the Colts beat the Titans in Indianapolis, which is basically my analysis for that game this past week. Minshew, though, is playing pretty well. He got the ball to Downs, who played well as a rookie. Taylor's back, which is awesome, gives them an explosive element to their backfield. Zach Moss is playing the best football of his career. The offensive line is playing much closer to the unit a couple years back and not the unit last year. The defense, I think, is fighting hard and has a good front seven with a lot of speed. But they're, this is just kind of an average team that's at least got some potential because of the situation with their young quarterback. At number 17, the New Orleans Saints, a kind of opposite situation of the Colts. They don't really have a lot of potential down the road as a franchise, but they're a team right now that's experienced, that plays fundamentally sound on defense. They're opportunistic. They play hard. They play physical. I was really impressed with their physicality against New England. They beat the crap out of them. They've got a lot of good players that are veterans. And then offensively, Derek Carr is a little banged up, doesn't quite seem to be 100%, but they've got a really talented receiving core, and Alvin Kamara is giving them a spark out of the backfield. So at number 17, I have the Saints. They could be a playoff team. At number 16, the Atlanta Falcons. Desmond Ridder played his best game of the season this past week against Houston. Bijan's special. The O-line's good. Drake London is really, really good. I think he's their best receiver by far, including Kyle Pitts, by the way. But Pitts did have a good game this past week, and they're starting to get him more involved in the concepts through the passing game. Jonnu's playing really well. And they just traded for Van Jefferson, which will help, I think, in terms of a route runner. Defensively, they're playing way better than I ever expected. Their coaching has been great. And the additions that they've made, David Onyemata, Jesse Bates, have been really good. AJ Terrell is also playing phenomenal football. So at number 16, Atlanta. At number 15, the Tampa Bay Bucks. They are kind of similar to Atlanta. I think Baker's a better quarterback than Ridder, and that might be the difference. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin are playing well. I think they're getting enough out of the secondary options in the passing and running game. The O-line isn't a disaster. It's not good, but it's not a disaster, which is nice considering last year. The defense is a top 10 unit, which is helping them win a lot of games in a weak division with a pretty weak schedule overall, but they're doing well, and they're doing a lot better than anyone expected, including myself, and I think they'll continue to be in that mix for the NFC South crown this year. At number 14, the Los Angeles Chargers. I do think for most people this team's a bit overrated. I don't believe in Brandon Staley. I think their defense is not very good. Justin Herbert's phenomenal, and I think he's playing like a top 3 or 4 quarterback in all of football right now. Mike Williams out, though. Austin Eckler should come back. Corey Linsley out, so they're having to kind of manipulate the offense. We'll see how they do against Dallas. Very good test for them to truly see where I think they land in this AFC and the NFL. But currently, I don't have them on the level of Dallas at number 14. At number 13, the Los Angeles Rams. The Rams, to me, are kind of what I expected the last couple of weeks. They're good enough to beat a team like the Colts, but they're not talented enough to compete with a team like the Eagles. That's pretty much it. They've got a good quarterback, and they've got a great coach, but they just don't have enough from a talent standpoint, especially defensively, to hang with a team like the Eagles. Cooper Kupp will help them in his return, played well. I think they're a playoff team, but they're just not good enough to compete with the elite in the NFC. At number 12, the Cincinnati Bengals. They will be on the rise. They've got a big game coming up at home against Seattle. Joe Burrow looked the best he's looked all year this past week against the Cardinals, throwing bombs to Chase. Got Chase involved. O-line needs to improve. Defense is playing okay, but they can play better. They're still just slowly getting there at number 12. At number 11, the Cleveland Browns. They're going to be a tough team to evaluate because Deshaun Watson's injured, which of course they paid this guy all this money just to be injured. Don't know what's going on there. PJ Walker might start against the Niners. Good luck. They've got probably a top 3 defense in the NFL, but their offense without Watson is just, they don't have a good enough backup to manage this thing. The O-line's also really a problem. And without Nick Chubb, they can't really rely truly all the way on the run game. So their offense just isn't good enough right now to be a contender, but they do appear to be talented enough to be a playoff team. But without Watson, they're going to start to take some L's. At number 10, the Baltimore Ravens, who I moved down, again, losing a tough one to the Steelers. I'm not going to go too crazy about this. This is Steelers-Ravens. These games are always close. They're always competitive. They're always within a field goal. The Baltimore Ravens have Lamar Jackson, who I think is playing really well this year. He's just been very unfortunate and unlucky. They've dealt with a ton of injuries. I think at their best, this team can beat anybody. I think at their worst, they're sloppy. They're just right now not detailed enough, and they're making too many mistakes. At number 9, Jacksonville. Jacksonville's at number 9 after a huge win in London over the Bills. 2 big wins in a row in London. Now we'll see how that transfers to a game at home against the Colts. Typically they beat the Colts at home, but you never know after coming from a trip from London to Jacksonville back home. Could be a little bit slow, a little bit sloppy, especially after a big game against Buffalo. But Trevor Lawrence is playing better football. Calvin Ridley's playing better. Doug Peterson's calling and dial things up. And Travis Etienne's been explosive as hell this year. Defensively, I think they're playing way better than I expected, even without a great pass rush, which is really impressive. At number 8, the Seattle Seahawks. Love what they're doing on offense. I think their offense is dynamic from a multi-dimensional standpoint. They can play action, they can run, they can throw, they can screen you. They can do everything you need to do at a fundamental level. They've got a lot of talent at receiver, at running back. Geno's playing well. The O-line is getting better and better. The defense is getting better and better. They've got a big test against the Bengals this week. We'll see if they can pass it. At number 7, the Dallas Cowboys. I'm not as worried about the Cowboys as others. They just played an absolute juggernaut train of a team named the 49ers. I was at the game. It was Strugglesville for the offense. Everything looked tough. Everything looked hard. And it's a disappointment for Cowboys fans that are expecting to contend this year. But Dallas will turn it around. I think they're going to beat the Chargers. We'll see, but I think they will. I still believe in their defense. And their offense, I just don't think that Niners defense gives them a lot of problems. I think they're going to get better. But they need to be more creative on offense. At number 6, the Detroit Lions. I moved the Lions above the Cowboys because I think they're a more creative and fun offense that I think takes advantage of their talent more often. Honestly, I think Goff's outplaying Dak this year. Their O-line's better than Dallas's O-line. They're adding more weapons to the offense. Jamison Williams coming in. And then defensively, they're not as good as Dallas, but they're playing really well. So, and Aiden Hutchinson's one of the best players on any unit, on any defense. At number 5, the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins have arguably the best offense in the NFL, probably the best, but the Niners are right there as well. Their defense is just kind of not very good, and it makes me wonder, yeah, they're going to beat up on every bad team. They're going to smoke every bad team, especially at home. But I want to see them continue to play the Bills of the world and how they are able to play those teams. I know they played the Chiefs at one point. How will their defense stand up to that challenge? At number 4, the Buffalo Bills. They're losing pieces left and right, which is extremely disappointing because I felt like this was the best AFC team after their win against Miami. But losing Tre'Davious White, losing Matt Milano in back-to-back weeks, critical to their success. Von Miller will get back and will get healthy, but that might just be too much to overcome. They still got Josh Allen, though, so I have them at number 4. At number 3, the Kansas City Chiefs. They're healthy. That's why they're above the Bills, but they haven't played better than the Bills. They're playing, fine. They're good enough to beat not very good teams, but I just don't see a lot in terms of their explosion, their downfield passing game, their chunk gains that they used to see from the Kansas City Chiefs. They're kind of playing a more traditional style of offense, running the ball more. They're playing defense. They're playing special teams. Like, They're making plays with Mahomes in critical moments, but they're not blowing anybody out. They're not being super flashy. It's kind of weird, but Chiefs are good. They're very good. I just don't know if they're great right now. At number 2, the Philadelphia Eagles with their most convincing victory of the season. 500 yards, I believe, against the Rams. Dominated time of possession. Dominated in most facets of the game. Jalen Hurts playing better and better. A.J. Brown is an animal. And Dallas Goedert finally showed up to the party. Their defense, I think, was really impressive against the Rams. I thought they would get shredded. They really didn't. So at number 2, the Eagles. And at number 1, the best team by far is the 49ers. I don't have to say that much. They have arguably the best offense and best defense in the NFL and best coach in the NFL. I don't know how many times any team in the history of football, even at week 6, could say that. So it's just pretty crazy. The Niners are really, 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 really damn good. So those are my power rankings. Let me know in the comment section below what you guys think. Gronk, spike the like button, subscribe. It's Mitch. Peace.